you were actually able to get some pretty decent returns from it.
Yes, absolutely correct.
Wow, that's amazing. Sitting on a gold mine, Alexey. This interview's from Alexey. He has loads of information about creative testing, the do's, the do-nots, the whys and the why-nots, and brings on a load of experience in that as well. It was only supposed to be 6 minutes long, but it was just too good and we had to go for the whole 10 minutes. I'm Richard Bond from Replai, and this is Expert 360. All right, great. So I'm joined here by Alexey Gusev. Alexey, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Alexey Gusev. I work in online marketing for a bit over 8 years already. Started a long time ago back at Otto, a big e-commerce company here in Germany, and then switched to InnoGames, worked there for ad networks and social networks, and now I'm at GGS leading a team of user acquisition games.
Amazing. So you actually made that transition into mobile games from performance marketing elsewhere. I didn't know that. We should be talking about that, but let's find out what we're actually going to be talking about today. So let's choose a couple of different subjects. And first up, we have lessons in creative testing. So let's kick off. Let's address the elephant in the room, right? With all the changes that have happened this year, what should or shouldn't people be thinking about with regards to creative testing?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, lovely topic. Lucky am I. I can talk about that for hours.
Well, ideal. Let's dig in, man. I'm excited to hear what you have to say.
Yeah. First of all, in terms of the do's and don'ts or shoulds and shouldn'ts in terms of the creative test, and I think the biggest should would be please do the creative test. I think that's the most important one. Independent of how did the recent changes in the mobile marketing environment has affected you, no matter if you're factoring in scat campaigns, what is your conversion schema, how did it affect you, whether the Facebook misleading ads policy had an effect. I think the most important thing here would be you should have a systematical creative testing framework. You need to understand your core KPIs and the need for the creative testing and adjust the framework according to your needs and wants, and how would you like to be doing that. You need to understand your creatives, tag them. You need to document the results. In terms of the shouldn't, to be honest, I wouldn't really go as far as to say that there are some strict no-goes in terms of the creative testing. However, the results that you're getting should be readable and comparable also in the future. So there are rather simple hygiene factors. Let's say choose the go-to platform or platforms and please stick to them, rather not mix them up in the length of the test. Try to go for the homogeneous audiences as much as possible. Try to go for the single geo approach, just because the results afterwards would be way more readable in comparison to you, let's say, testing in the worldwide environment and so on and so forth. I'd say those would be the core things.
So not so much all the things you shouldn't do, but certainly a couple of things that you should do to try and at least give yourself a fighting chance.
Definitely, yes.
Okay, cool. So it sounds like you actually have like a pretty interesting process with this, without obviously revealing your secret sauce. But how are you actually tackling creative testing today?
Yeah, to be honest, I wouldn't say that it's really a secret. I think on the matter of the creative testing, it's been talked quite a lot in the internet. At the moment, we have a dedicated creative testing campaign within several partners, and we are regularly uploading our creatives that we are coming up with our creative team every week, and we're basically pulling the winners from that every other week and putting them in the live campaigns. It sounds simple as it is. However, it took us some time to flesh it out and to come to that specific approach that kind of fits for a portfolio of our products.
Could you give me a kind of an idea there? You say it took you quite a while. It sounds like it's constantly changing, so how much kind of work, how many years or months or weeks of work are we kind of talking about here?
I'd say within half a year. There were several iterations of the process that we had to make, also because of the recent changes. However, the more or less decent results you can be getting from step one. I have to be honest. It's more so that the product that we were working with has changed itself as well, and we had to accommodate those changes within the creative testing framework.
Yeah. There's a lot of moving pieces here. It's really exciting. So let's talk about like kind of output. So thinking back to the testing you've been doing, say over the last 6 months, have you had any major wins, big takeaways that you can kind of share that either you're proud of or you were like, wow, this is a game changer. We should do this more often?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest things or the biggest breakthrough from my point of view was we essentially went through a rather lengthy backlog of the creatives, and some of the creatives that were deemed unviable for the marketing campaigns with the previous testing process, with an updated one, we managed to push them through and made them, let's say, not the hit creatives, not the best performers, but average to best performers. So the strong titles that were bringing in the revenue and the profit for our. And that was done really without investing any additional budget for the creative production. And that's the best part.
Absolutely. So let me get that straight. There was a creative, a concept that was there that showed potential, but for some reason was kind of overlooked. And you went and found it again. And then by kind of relaunching or kind of working with that, you were actually able to get some pretty decent returns from it.
Yes, absolutely correct.
Wow, that's amazing. Sitting on a gold mine, Alexey. You want to live in the dream. And if we're talking about that, let's talk a little bit about money. So in terms of creative testing, like I'm starting from nothing, I'm starting from scratch. For me to get to the point where I'm actually getting decent results that I can make some decisions from, like how much money are we talking about here?
That's a very hard question, I have to say. It very much depends on the core KPIs of your product and the metrics that are the most important to you. So let's take a look at two examples. If you care the most about the volume of installs, let's say your product is driven by the amount of active users that you have, whether it would be a game that is ad driven, let's sit on that. So I would assume that the IPM is going to be the most important. In my experience, generating at least 100 installs per tested creative in order to have some rough direction towards the results being statistically significant is required. So you can factor in the amount of tested creatives, 100 installs, at least for the ones that are top delivering, and multiply it by the CPI that you have. Ideally, you would have to let it run for a period of several days in order to get rid of the day of the week bias. The other example would be the registration to pay rate. Like if your product is more so driven by the purchases within that. So I'd say direct to pay is going to be the most important metric. And here, of course, optimizing towards purchases will be a way more interesting optimization method, but this will be substantially more expensive. I'd say ideally going for something like 50 purchases would be really nice. However, I think in this case, majority of the decisions should be done based on the proxy events, like how the retention within the products is looking, how other core metrics that are leading to the purchase looking for you, and make your decision based on it.
Amazing. Good answer. Very, very political, but I love it.
Yeah.
And look, just even listening to you talk, it's really clear that, this isn't your first rodeo. This is something that you've been doing for a long time, right? So what would you say to someone around creative testing if they're just trying this out for the first time or just getting involved in it properly for the first time?
I'd say we are very much lucky living in the current day and age. There are plenty of wonderful talks and blog posts and videos that are covering the topic of the creative testing in many different industries and in many different ways. Read through them, come up with a framework that fits your needs the best, and then test, iterate, and polish the process. Easy and complicated as it is.
I was going to say, you almost made it sound easy then, but there's so much work involved. Listen, Alexey, I know time was short. Your time is super, super important. So I really appreciate you giving this time today. It's been great talking to you. If someone wanted to reach out to you, what's the best way in getting in touch with you now?
I'd say LinkedIn is the easiest platform for me to reach out to me. So I welcome all the new people, let's say, to my own.
Fantastic. Well, listen, Alexey, thank you so much for your time. Have a good one, and we'll speak to you soon.
Thanks a lot, Richard. That was lovely. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.